On July 6, 2024, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso announced the creation of a confederation in the Sahel region of West Africa. This transitional zone extends approximately 3,000 miles across 8 countries: Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Sudan, and parts of Nigeria. The newly formed confederation is the outcome of a defense pact signed by the three nations in September 2023. However, the confederation faces significant opposition for two primary reasons. First, there is a powerful anti-French sentiment linked to the alliance, which seeks to diminish the influence of Western imperial powers, particularly France, in the region. The second reason stems from the opposition of ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, established in 1975 to foster political and economic cooperation among its 15 member nations. The newly formed Alliance of Sahel States has distanced itself from ECOWAS, criticizing it for being driven by foreign powers that do not represent Africa's interests. West Africa has long been plagued by instability, which escalated after Muammar Gaddafi's death in Libya. A minor insurgency from Libya snowballed into a decade-long civil war and terrorism crisis in the region. The instability in Libya led to the widespread dispersal of weapons and fighters across North and West Africa. As militants and arms flowed from Libya into neighboring countries, they significantly intensified regional conflicts. Notable conflicts include the Mali War and Boko Haram uprising. In response, 5 countries, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Chad, and Mauritania, formed the G5 Sahel Alliance to combat these threats. Supported by France, the UN, and the US, the alliance boasts 3,000 French soldiers and 4,000 UN peacekeepers, bolstering regional security efforts. The G5 Sahel Alliance failed to deliver significant stability, leading to widespread public discontent. Consequently, Mali withdrew from the alliance in 2022 amid strong public opposition. This exodus was followed by Niger and Burkina Faso's exit in 2023. Ultimately, the remaining members, Chad and Mauritania, dissolved the G5 Sahel Alliance, marking the end of the regional security initiative. The dissolution of the G5 alliance further contributed to instability in the region, which was followed by a series of military coups. First, it was Mali in 2020. Assimi Goïta of the Salvation Committee of the People seized power by removing the elected government of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. This was followed by a faction of Burkina Faso's military overthrowing the existing military government in 2022, installing Ibrahim Traoré in the place of Paul-Henri Damiba, who also came to power by overthrowing the elected government of Roch-Marc Kaboré. Most recently in 2023, the National Council for the Safeguard of Homeland removed Niger's elected democratic government of President Mohamed Bazoum, installing Abdul Rahman Tichane. These events make the three countries a part of the so-called coup belt, including Chad, Guinea and Sudan, led by military juntas. Following the recent coup in Niger, the threat of escalating instability in the region and diplomatic pressure from Western nations, particularly France, prompted Nigeria and ECOWAS countries to threaten military intervention to restore President Bazoum's ousted government. In response, Mali and Burkina Faso offered support, while Guinea provided partial backing, driven by fears of similar coups occurring in their own countries. French President Macron's threat of military intervention further widened the rift between these nations and ECOWAS. Amidst these tensions, Sahel countries formed a military alliance in September 2023. On July 6, in Niamey, Niger's capital, 3 military leaders signed a treaty aimed at deeper integration and reducing military influence. Niger's military leader, Tichane, declared that ECOWAS poses a threat to their people and serves Western imperial interests. Burkina Faso's military leader, Traoré, echoed this sentiment, stating that Western nations exploit Africa's resources, that their era has ended. Mali's military junta leader, Goïta, asserted that any aggression against a member of the Sahel Confederation would be considered an attack on all members. This alliance is especially concerning for the French, but what do the French have to lose in this? This confederation arose from a collective desire to counter both internal armed rebellion and external threats, primarily from France. As these nations began to reassess their partnerships, they increasingly looked towards Russia for support, a decision spurred by rising dissatisfaction with French influence and intervention in their internal affairs. For France, the situation is particularly concerning. Historically, France has sought to maintain its influence over its former colonies, promoting the use of the CFA franc, the currency used by many West African nations. This influence also extends to France's role in the United Nations, where the formerly colonized countries often align with French positions. Should this new confederation succeed, it could inspire other African nations to break from the French orbit, thus undermining French authority on the continent. Moreover, France has significant economic interests in the region. With Russia making inroads into countries rich in vital resources like uranium, the key component in France's nuclear reactors, the potential loss of influence is alarming. Niger, in particular, serves as a crucial checkpoint for migrants heading to France and Europe. A shift in government in Niger could disrupt this flow, posing additional challenges for France and its European neighbors. Sub-Saharan Africa has experienced 27 coups since 1990, with 21 occurring in former French colonies. This trend suggests that French influence in West Africa may be contributing to regional instability. Meanwhile, Russian influence is growing in the Sahel region, partly due to France's policies and military interventions in neighboring countries. The Sahel states are pushing back against French dominance, driven by concerns about France's ongoing military expansion in the region and its threats of military intervention. Russia is capitalizing on anti-French sentiment and instability in the Sahel region, expanding its influence through the Wagner Group, a Russian-backed mercenary organization. Wagner has provided military, diplomatic, and informational support to countries like the Central African Republic, Mali, and Burkina Faso. In Mali, Wagner has deployed 400 mercenaries to fight jihadists. By doing so, Russia seeks to counter Western influence and secure strategic gains in Africa, despite its mixed record in the region. The newly formed alliance between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso has unveiled ambitious plans, one of which includes the establishment of a common currency named the Sahel. Leaders from these countries met in Niamey to discuss the operationalization and institutional framework of the Confederation. They signed agreements to adopt a unified constitution, marking a significant step toward deeper structural integration. This alliance symbolizes a notable shift from its initial military focus towards encompassing political and monetary dimensions. One of its primary objectives is to diminish the influence of European powers, particularly France, in West Africa. The alliance between these nations started from military alliance and has moved on to political and now to economic alliance. It would not be far-fetched to assume a new sort of structural integration between these nations and formation of a new country. This would mean the lessening of France's influence even more and more worries for the Western allies.